Hello, everyone. I'm Scott Homan. I am volunteering for the Decult Cult Awareness Conference in New Zealand this year. Today we have Ulrike Schiesser from Austria. She's a psychologist and psychotherapist working for the Federal Office of Cult Affairs. She's also worked with the Radicalization Awareness Network, the British Skeptics Society, the European Council of Skeptics organization as a speaker, as well as Skeptics in the Pub. How are you doing today, Ulrike?
Yeah, thank you for having me. I'm fine. I'm looking forward to this interview.
Great. The reason why we're here today is because both of us have been invited by Anke Richter in Christchurch to speak at her Decult Cult Awareness event. And what is it that you'll be speaking about this year at the event?
Yeah, I will talk about my work in the Austrian Federal Office for Cult Affairs, which is a quite special institution, and Anke is trying to get something similar, or maybe also for New Zealand. And so I will talk about our work with cults in Austria.
I saw that you wrote a couple articles in a book. Could you speak about those?
I wrote a book about how to talk to people who believe in esoteric, in all kinds of religions, but also conspiracy theories. So people that you can't reach with logical arguments, but you have to have still want to have a connection. You still want to reach them, or sometimes you might be afraid that they need some help. But how can you talk to someone who is very close-minded and very much in a belief system? So this book is about talking to people when it's not about logic.
I noticed you did a lot of work in the European Union, especially when it came to making sense of information during the global pandemic. Could you speak a bit about your work there?
Yeah, in the pandemic, we got a lot of questions about from often it was friends or family members of someone who was drawn to conspiracy theories, and they sometimes were very much how can I say, they said, I can't believe that my mother is talking like this, or I never thought this friend of mine would be believing this kind of things, and I have no idea how to talk to them. But it's very emotional because it's about vaccination, it's about about the pandemic, and there was a lot of emotion, and people were quite unsure how to deal with this topic. And so we did a lot of counseling in this way. I can tell you some of the things we normally advised people, because they were quite unsure how to talk to them. We advise them to find out if someone is still willing to discuss about a topic, or if they are already believers. If they are willing, if they're not so sure about it, then it's important to focus on informations in the best way. Sit together on a computer and go to good fact-checking sites and focus on the most important information and the stronger counter arguments. But most of the times, people are already really believing in these things. It's a lot like religious belief systems. So it's a matter of faith. In this, when it's like this, then stop discussing the content of some conspiracy theory, but focus on the sources. Why do you believe this kind of information? Where does it come from? Would you believe this person also in other kinds of things? Would you buy a car because you get it from this kind of source? So, or what could convince you that this is a hoax? So better to ask questions, better to work on this point of information, what kind of information is good and why is someone believing it, and focus on maintaining a positive relationship. So stay in contact, try to find a bridge that's not always dealing with the conspiracy theory, but have some other hobbies, some other topics to talk about, and be very patient, because it takes a lot of time to change someone's that someone is changing their belief systems.
Yeah, I listened to one of your other podcast episodes you were interviewed on, or you spoke on, about that topic of asking a good question, a well-worded question coming from a healthy place could have a much larger impact than a lot of data or a lot of facts, or directly challenging what they told you they believe with your belief or more information.
Yeah, and only ask a question if you're really interested in the answer. Because don't ask questions just as a kind of instrument to get a person to a point you want them to go. Because people have a very good awareness if you're really interested in them, or if you just want to push them in some direction, then it won't work. So only ask a question if you're really interested in the answer, if you're really willing to listen. And it's often more the relationship that's more effective than the arguments that you have. To have a good relationship, to really see the person as a whole, and not only as someone you want to convince. There
was another tool that's really similar from a book I read recently. I think it's called How to Change a Mind, or How to Change Someone's Mind. And they said, ask a question and listen to the answer, and then dive in more and ask more questions, and then come back to the original question at the end of the conversation, and just be interested in them authentically. And often by the end, if you ask that same question at the beginning and at the end, they will have convinced themselves that they don't even care about that topic that they were like so strong about. And that was like a political, how do you change someone's mind on the politics side? Yeah. And it's so simple. Just actually have genuine human curiosity, and you'll probably find out that the person will talk themselves out of their own ideology.
Yeah. But I think we have to don't believe that you can change somebody's mind just with arguing or with talking. It doesn't work. People don't change their mind because they have a good discussion. They might change it in some ways when it's not about something that's emotionally very important to them. But if it's an important, it's really something that's very important to them. It's not really about the discussions, about the talks. You see, I'm working also on the other side with people who have changed their opinions or their way how they see the world in a very fundamental way. Maybe they have followed in a cult, or they have left the cult, or they have really drastically changes in their perception of the world. And I always ask them, what were the causes? Why did you change? In your family, could someone have done something, said something that might have helped you to get sooner to the point where you are now?
Look inward about how things have actually changed you in the past.
Yeah, what have changed you? And could someone have facilitated that a bit sooner? And they get always the same answer. They always say, no, there was nothing someone outside could have done. It's an inner process. It's something that you really have to live through. It's often about experiences people have, experiences in their group, in their life, and that makes them change their worldview. It's not the thing that you do or say to someone. It's more really relationships, and it's a long time project.
Yeah, just to give some personal experience of that, growing up with Jehovah's Witness ideologies, there was always someone telling me something that was incorrect about the religion. And for me, it was like, okay, there's 1,000 reasons why this religion isn't real. But there's this one, immortality is the thing. I want to live forever, or like death isn't real according to them. And And then like, oh, Bible prophecy. Well, that must be real. So as long as there's like one or two things, I will stick with this worldview. And it lasted years, many years, like 8 more years after. And that was from teenager to like my mid late 20s. So it took a lot. It took a lot of my internal process to eventually get to the point where like, oh, actually, yeah, those things are also not true. Finally, I can be free of this whole thing.
Yeah.
But yeah, it took a long time. So very interesting. What I love about someone in your position is that like, you're not just in one isolated group. You're kind of out looking at all these different groups and all these different opinions, and you're seeing the human condition in a more neutral, general sense. And then, yeah.
We see the patterns, and we also see the patterns, the similar patterns if we talk about religions, but also about political extremism, about conspiracy theories, about people who don't want the state rejectionists. So
state rejectionist.
Yeah, people who say the state is not real, like Freeman, or the state does not exist. You don't have to pay taxes. You don't have to.
No passports.
Real, that they say there is no state. There's in Germany it is Reichsbürger, but all different, all countries have their own kind of people like this. But if you go down to the bottom of it, you find the very same driving factors, the same fears, hopes, motivation.
So yeah. What, and you're saying the same as general citizens or the religion or a different group?
Yes. Yeah. It's usually similar. It's easier if it's a kind of if it's based on a religion, then you have a lot more power. Because we also have a lot of we get asked about multi-level marketing, for an example, because some people say some, not all of course, but some people in multi-level marketing systems are very pushy, and they say this is not just a product, this is a way of life, and they sell more than just a product, and there are parallels to cults, but if it's based on a spiritual or religious system, it's a lot more powerful, because you can't say, no, there is nothing wrong in my aura. I've not been cursed. If a person that you really believe in tells you there is a powerful curse upon you, and he has to save you or you will die, and you believe it, then it's an ultimate power. Nothing else comes close to it. But the patterns are similar in all kind of groups.
I like to use the multi-level marketing as an example to, like, if you're trying to like frame the religious issue, identifying as a Jehovah's Witness or as a Mormon or some of the groups in New Zealand like Gloria Vale, that identity is so strong. But if you replace the identity you label of Jehovah's Witness with like Tupperware or Herbalife or Amway as multi-level marketing organizations, then it's like, oh, well, that has a lot less weight and power over me, because they're just selling like boxes and granola bars and like juice drinks. And like, I don't need to spend my life identifying as that thing. And it's easier to like separate that part of your life if you like replace the label for the religion, because the religion, like you said, takes on this huge power over you or inside of you of God, or there's the power of some supernatural being like demons or Satan or something, is a much larger concept than Tupperware and Amway.
Well, in a superficial way, you could say they're all selling you something. But of course, it's a lot different if it's about your whole life, your family, your belief systems. It goes a lot deeper. It's also it's also more sustaining you in a positive way, but it could also be a lot more dangerous. Two sides of a coin. You can get more out of a religious context, more help in life situations, but it can also be more devastating if it's used wrong against you. And the stronger the power structure, the more there is the abuse. I don't think there's any power without abuse. So absolute power leads to abuse. That's maybe a bit cynical, but that's my.
It's like a thesis.
That's what I've seen. And the abuse could be in different kinds of ways. Could be a financial, sexual, emotional, spiritual. But power, especially absolute power without good control systems, is always sooner or later it leads to abuse.
As someone with such a much broader view and a different perspective being in Europe, could you talk about how deep these problems are and what you want to change, and like where is this affecting people? Where is this power affecting people besides the obvious like classic cult or even some high control religions and cultic religions like Jehovah's Witnesses? Where do you see the problems lying right now in society?
We don't have so much these big groups, these big cult-like communities like in the 80s, 70s. It's a lot smaller now. We have small communities. Sometimes it's just one influencer and 5 people, 10 people, 15 people that are very much influenced by this one person. And nobody outside has any awareness of that. And there are really hundreds, thousands of them. So it's not it has changed not from the big groups to very small ones. And what we see is that the danger of religious fanaticism is rising worldwide. We are living in uncertain times, and people are often looking for clear answers, for simple solutions, and they are more likely to follow some charismatic, authoritarian leaders. And we see it in the rise of fundamental religious groups, but it could also be esoteric groups. But there is more. We get more problems in this ways now, and more problems with people who say, "No, I don't use medical treatments. I believe in my guru or my shaman or whatever." People who could have good medical treatments, who have a possibility for school systems, but they say, no, I take my children out of school. I don't believe in this system anymore. I want to go outside of the systems. More people who looking for some social utopian way of living outside of society. And at the same time, the organizations who deal with cults or have experience with cults are decreasing. Because the churches, who often have been the founding organizations, they don't want to deal with the cult topic, because they say cult, well, we want to have good relationships with other churches, and we don't want to use the word cult anymore, and it's not really. We have, and sometimes they don't have the money anymore. They have to look out where they want to. Where to put their resources. So the church-based organizations are withdrawing, and a lot of the retiring experts are not replaced. And there are very, very few government-funded organizations. And in Austria, we are one of the really few worldwide who are 100% governmental. We are not.
Wow.
So we are not a self-help group or some like there are a lot of them who come out of a self-help field and do a good work. But it's easier if you really have a good founding, and we are established by a federal law. So
Wow.
that gives you a good position, and we are neutral. We are ideologically neutral, and we can offer counseling free of charge, of course, because it is a state institution. And that's a very important point. A lot of people come to us and say, we want to go to an institution that it's not in any way in connection to a church, because
that's super important.
Yeah.
Have you heard of the Secular Therapy Project, or seculartherapy.org? That's where I found my first therapist. And she was focused on family, but also people who've left religions, because she also went through that. And so she made a specialty because she left the Mormons. Having someone who went through that process, from my perspective, was incredible. Is that associated with your group, or is your group completely its own thing that's non-affiliated with religions?
Yeah. For some, religions as a whole are burnt ground, and they don't want to deal with anybody who is associated with some kind of religion. Yeah. It's for them really important to have an neutral ground. And also, if you are part of a state and a state organization, it's easier to be a bridge between other institutions like social help, or if it's about childcare, or also if you see that a group is trying to get into schools, or it's easier for me to warn other ministries, or to give informations also to politicians. And we have some annual report that is every year is dealt with in the parliament. So it's quite a high official report about the state of cults or cult-like behaviors in Austria for each year. So I think that's really important to not put this topic into the hands just of organizations who have to how's it called, Ehrenamtliche, they who are not get paid, but have to do it on their free times. So they do often very good work, but it's difficult to maintain an ongoing, high professional work. And we deal in a topic where very few professionals have insight. Also psychotherapists, psychologists in the field, they don't get trained in dealing with the topic of cults.
Wow.
They often are very naive, very, they don't see the topic. Often they are not trained in dealing with religions per se. So asking about the religions, talking about religions with their clients, that's a bit of a blind spot in a lot of psychotherapeutic systems.
What was really striking about what you were saying earlier was like groups online, or people following one influencer on YouTube, let's say, and having 5 people who are dedicated to following that person. That is an uncontrollable, exponential rise in that situation because of the technology that we're all using now. And I have a YouTube channel. We're on it now, but I don't want people to follow me, but I can see that being an angle for someone for narcissistic supply, or just to influence people with their bad ideas. And I'm starting to see these patterns everywhere with spiritual groups I mean, in the smallest way, it seems innocent, but like cacao ceremonies are like everywhere in the Americas. Like, come to a cacao ceremony and then sit in a circle, and there's special language and there's special dress, and it's like, oh, you guys are just copying like every cult ever. And they're like, no, we're not a cult. We don't want you to be our follower. But then they like start using all this special language, and I'm like, if I don't use the special language, I'm not one of you. And it's like this. So for me, it's like, this is everywhere. And I wonder if I'm just paying attention to it because I'm like working in this space and I'm talking about this topic and I'm reading books on the topic a lot, or if it's actually on the rise. And to hear you say that, it just feels like it's on the rise and it's a problem and there's no one trained. So I think it's really special that you're going out and spreading the knowledge in the way that you can.
Yeah, and I hope very much that other countries are get more aware of these problems and are more willing to fund professional work in this way, because it's really difficult. I see it when I get some media. Some medias when they need some expertise. In Europe, in the German-speaking field, maybe 10 people I can name, but I think it's less than 10 people. So it's really, there are hardly any social topic where we have such a small group of really neutrally, not in a way belonging to a church, neutrally professionals in this way. Maybe it has to do with that we in our field the problems that we have can be there can be very negative consequences, but we have seldom criminal offenses. It's seldom that our clients can really go to court, or and so it's a bit of a dark field. You don't see the problems. They can be horrendous. We have each year some people who are dying because their therapist says, or their shaman or whatever says they should not do cancer treatments or something like that. But it's invisible. You don't see this kind of problems.
I see that a lot in the group that I came from, with the denial of medical practice when it comes to topics of blood, the blood transfusion. And around the whole world in that group, people are dying. And it's not just like the idea in their head. They actually send emissaries from the local congregation to their bed at the hospital and convince them not to make sure that they don't allow medical care. And then they die. And then they use that dead person as a martyr. Like, look at this person, all the way until death served God, served us. And it's like, how many martyrs do you need? And it feels like governments all over the world don't understand. And there's not work in this. I think you're absolutely right that it's important to have a group like yours that's funded by the government to bring awareness, bring the intellectual level to a high place, not just an influencer at night talking about these issues in their free time. Can we talk a little bit about Decult? We're going to be both speaking at this conference we have the keynote speaker, Janja Lalic, who will be there. Here's some of the other speakers who will be there. Do you know what panel you will be speaking on?
Yeah, and it's a lot about also getting to other professionals in the social work. So in psychotherapists, but also social workers, people who work with especially children and young people, because they are the most vulnerable. They live with parents or live in this kind of groups, and there is a tendency we see that to cut them off from society, to isolate them, and we have, as a society, we have a really important. We have to look out for these children especially. So, I want to tell about the things about our work, and hopefully that we get a bit more offices like ours worldwide, and to get a kind of network. It's very important to meet on conferences. I love to meet other experts, like on the ICSA or in New Zealand at a conference. There are so few of us, and that's even more important to compare our our view, and to see the development of the field, because there's a lot of happening now, and we are sort of a bit of a seismographic institution to see the changes happening. Sometimes we are the first to get the to see where some social developments are going, and so it's important to exchange our views, to help us together, and to spread the work, and to build new awareness, and help others to get a professional insight in this field.
I love that analogy of a social seismograph. The first ones to notice an effect in the world. Even just with my interviews, when I interview someone who had a background in the experience of exiting a high control or occultic group, I learn something. I learn a new perspective every time, or a different way of seeing things that brings clarity to my understanding of the world. And I can imagine when you're doing the deep work every single day professionally, that meeting another professional in the space would be an incredible conversation and education.
Yeah,
well, I'm looking forward to seeing you there, and thank you so much for coming on and for going to Decult. It's a long way to go, and it's a really special opportunity, I think, for everybody involved. So yeah, thanks again for coming on to this short interview.
Yeah, thank you for the invitation. I'm looking forward to meeting you in New Zealand. Bye.